Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. I will never forget you, I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, 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 listen. Listen, listen, listen.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to those of you here. Good morning to those at home. Joining us on YouTube. We're glad you're with us this morning. Randy, welcome back from your travel. Looking forward to hearing about the Appalachian Trail. I'm sure you've got lots of great stories. So it's good to be with you all this morning, and beautiful sunshiny day, and I look forward to the picnic afterwards. If you're at home but you live nearby, come join us for the picnic out on the lawn. If you didn't notice, there's a basket out in the foyer if you brought a card for Jim Hamilton, who is celebrating his 85th birthday tomorrow. And Patty, Jim's wife, is going to bring by some little mini bundt cakes. So when you go out to eat, you can grab a bundt cake on the way to celebrate Jim's birthday with him. So that was very sweet of her, and wish that they could all be with us this morning and that we could all be celebrating in person. But Jim, happy birthday. We continue our series of Who Stole My Pew? And really today is about how things have shifted, and now where are we going to shift to? We've been kind of dormant for a while. A lot of things that you might have served on, or outings you might have taken, people that you would have gathered with regularly, some of those things likely stopped during the pandemic. And you might find that some opportunities are presenting themselves before you again. And so I want you to think this morning some about how do you choose what to say yes to and what you say no to? What are the guidelines that you go by in making that decision? And maybe they've shifted in the last year and a half. Perhaps they needed to shift for your own self-care and health. So we're going to think about that some today. But let's continue to worship. Let's sing together.
This is the time I'd usually say, welcome. But I have been away so much from this morning time that I feel welcomed to be here in your midst. Being with you all, sharing this time, is one of the things that brings life to me. And we invite you to pay attention to those things this morning that bring you life. One thing might be paying attention to the words in the songs. If there are words that you personally need to substitute because those words are more meaningful to you, they fit more with where you are now and your faith, sing those words. But we ask and invite you to just participate fully. And it's really good to be in your midst, and it's good to have you joining us from your home still, too. So please sing with us. Oh, I guess I can unmask now.
Yay. All right, ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You might even want to stand.
Blessings be upon you. Blessings grow within you. Blessings ripple out from your amazing life. You are welcome here. You and your children. You and your children's children. Oh yes, you are welcome here. Blessings ripple upon you. Blessings grow within you. Blessings ripple out from your amazing life. You are welcome here. You and your children. You and your children's children. Oh yes, you are welcome here. You are welcome here. You and your children. You and your children's children. Oh yes, you are welcome here. Oh yes, you are welcome here. Oh yes, you are welcome here.
When your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your womb tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn. Anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you.
God's eye be within me, God's foot be before me, God's spirit be around me to shield and restore me, God's freedom to choose me, God's justice to fuse me, God's purpose to liberate and transform and use me. God's eye be within me, God's foot be before me, God's spirit be around me to shield and restore me, God's freedom to choose me, God's justice to fuse me, God's purpose to liberate and transform and use me. God's eye be within me, God's foot be before me, God's spirit be around me to shield and restore me, God's freedom to choose me, God's justice to fuse me, God's purpose to liberate and transform and use me. God's eye be within me, God's foot be before me, God's spirit be around me to shield and restore me, God's freedom to choose me, God's justice to fuse me, God's purpose to liberate and transform and use me. God's eye be within me, God's foot be before me, God's spirit be around me to shield and restore me, God's freedom to choose me, God's justice to fuse me, God's purpose to liberate and transform and use me. God's eye be within me, God's foot be before me, God's spirit be around me to shield and restore me, God's freedom to choose me, God's justice to fuse me, God's purpose to liberate and transform and use me. Oh, you've come to bring peace, to be love, to be nearer to us. You've come to bring light, to be light, to shine brighter in us, oh Emmanuel, God with us, our deliverer, you are Savior, in your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption, God with us. You are God with us. Oh, you've come to be home to this world for your honor and name. You've come to take sin, to bear shame, and to conquer the grave, oh Emmanuel, God with us, our deliverer, you are Savior, in your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption, God with us. You are God with us. You are here, you are holy, we are standing in your glory. You are here, you are holy, we are standing in your glory. You are here, you are holy, we are standing in your glory. You are here, you are holy, we are standing in your glory, Lord. Our deliverer, you are Savior, in your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption, God with us, our deliverer, you are Savior, in your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption, God with us. You are God with us, oh God with us. You are God with us.
I asked God if it was okay to be melodramatic, and she said yes. I asked her if it was okay to be short, and she said it sure is. I asked her if I could wear nail polish or not wear nail polish, and she said, honey, she calls me that sometimes. She said, you can do just exactly what you want to. Thanks God, I said. And is it even okay if I don't paragraph my letters? Sweet Kate's God said, who knows where she picked that up? What I'm telling you is, yes, yes, yes.
that's beautiful radiates from you. Whatever takes my breath away draws its breath from you. Everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Whatever takes my breath away draws its breath from you. Colors on canvas, orchards in bloom, laughter on faces, a child in the womb. Everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Whatever takes my breath away draws its breath from you. Yeah, everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Whatever takes my breath away draws its breath from you. Moon over mountains, poems on the page, wings beating skyward, an empty cage. Everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Whatever takes my breath away draws its breath from you. Everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Whatever takes my breath away draws its breath from you. Mothers and daughters in streets safe from guns, peace between neighbors and fathers and sons. Everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Whatever takes my breath away draws its breath from you. Yeah, everything that's beautiful radiates from you. And whatever takes my breath away draws its breath from you. Everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Yeah, everything that's beautiful radiates from you. Everything that's beautiful radiates from you.
Join me in our offering prayer. So as you know, if you know me, I like to picture things. But it's hard for me to picture Jesus writing weekly or monthly checks the way we think of giving tithes and offerings now. I believe he gave and gave and gave. I believe we are blessed when we give. And I've experienced it, that the more gladly I give, the more blessed I feel, and the happier I am. I get that giving works that way. I don't get how. The giving and getting back and forth and back and forth. I believe some things we take, like deep breaths, small bites, big sips, short breaks, long walks, warm baths, cold showers, safe shelter. Those things that we take keep us alive. In some things we share: music, song, stories, laughter, wonder, time. Those things help us live. So help us live like you, Jesus, and help us share like you. And thanks. Amen.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Be thou my vision, Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought, my day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my life. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word. I ever with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Mother and father, my child I will be. Thou in me dwelling, and I one with thee. Riches I need not, nor humanly praised. Thou mine inheritance, now and always. Thou and thou only, first in my heart. Sovereign of heaven, my treasure thou art. Sovereign of heaven, my victory won. May I reach heaven's joyful bright sun. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, O ruler of all. Still be my vision, O ruler of all.
Cues. So from Isaiah 42, 18 through 20. Listen closely, though you who are deaf, look and see, you who are blind. No one is as blind as my servant, none so deaf as my messenger. Who was as blind as my chosen, as deaf as my servant of Yahweh? You saw many things, but did not observe them. Your ears were open, but you paid no attention.
So, how many of you would describe yourself as yes people? Somehow I feel like there are not enough people saying yes right now. But think of it this way. How many of you would acknowledge that you generally say yes to just about everything that comes your way or gets asked of you? The most I think I've said no in the last week is just to my kids. Like, no, you cannot have another sucker. No, you can't have another juice box. But other things we tend to say yes to. Would you mind cooking a dish for an event on Friday night? Well, I've got a busy week, but I suppose I could do that. How many times have you said that? Or what about, hey, could you serve on this work group at church? Well, it's not really my skill set, but if you need me, okay. Or, this is for some of us, maybe, or some of you in your previous days, hey, would you volunteer at that PTA fundraiser? I feel like I'm dodging those all the time. Well, I have a conflict that night, but I'll move it around so I can show up. Would you teach Sunday school? Well, you must really need someone if you've decided to ask me. Can you serve on a board at work? Well, I probably should say yes to that, right? Because it's work and it looks bad if I say no. Yes, 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 yes. It can be pretty hard to say no. Some of you know that really well. I'm one of those people. I suspect, and I hope, that you won't be surprised that in a lot of reading I did on the practice of saying no, researchers and journalists reported that women have the harder time of saying no. Anybody surprised by that? No. We have a harder time saying no in part because our sense of self-worth is tied to our ability to produce and fulfill all that is asked of us. And when women do say no, there is often an apology attached, and even an explanation of why we can't meet your request. And that's something that we need to change. In a previous church that I served in, there was a young woman who returned home after college. She had grown up in that church. Everyone knew her, and she was very skilled in a wide variety of ways. You know, she was just kind of like a Madeline Gangelbach. And very quickly, everyone, I'm not talking about Madeline, even though it might seem that way. Very quickly, everyone asked her to be on their team at church. She was needed for her art and her graphic skills. This could also be Rob Hayden, I think. She had an obvious connection to the youth group, so she was asked to volunteer there. She was wonderful with children, so she ended up helping with a Sunday school class, and she was in the nursery rotation. Rob, don't you do all of those things? She had always been involved with missions, and so she was good at planning, and so she quickly got recruited to help plan the next mission trip, and that there were more things beyond that. And when I finally sat down with her, she was volunteering on 8 different church teams. This was a church of like 400 people, and she was on 8 teams. There were enough people to go around. And I could tell that she was stretched really thin and that she was getting pretty tired already. But it was also clear that she did not want to let anyone down. So we had a come to Jesus moment, you know what that is, about how it was okay for her to say no to some things. In fact, saying no would allow her to care for herself and be more present and give more energy to the things that she cared about, that she chose to say yes to. So our scripture this morning kind of seems a little strange. I think I threw Melody for a loop a bit on planning this one, but she did an excellent job. Isaiah is speaking about the Israelites and how they were failing to see and hear what life was trying to tell them, what God was trying to open their eyes to. They were spiritually blind, is what Isaiah is saying. And I think, like us, they kind of had a similar problem that we do today, and that is that we say yes to kind of everything in the world, everything that people present to us. We say yes to the people. And sometimes we miss what God is saying in the midst of all of that. You saw many things, but you did not observe them. It's like walking through the zoo and knowing you saw the tiger, but not being able to say anything about what the tiger did while you were watching, right? My kids have no problem. We come home from the zoo and they can tell you like every little thing that those animals did, and they recall things, and I'm like, oh, I don't remember that at all. I was not observing in the way that they were observing. Your ears were open, but you paid no attention. Do you ever go home and just think, what in the world did Stephanie say this morning? It's okay. Sometimes I go home and I say, what did I say this morning? No, I'm just joking. Usually it's the next week. I'm like, what did I talk about last week? How often do we see without truly seeing? Or hear without truly hearing? So often we quickly say yes, and we take no time to listen to ourselves, or to listen to others, or to listen to God. So lots of churches are struggling right now with this yes and no business, because it pertains to things like whether they open up, right? Or whether they stay open, or whether they close down again. But also there's this restarting of things, which is even more hindered by the uptick in the pandemic, because people were ready to be open. But how do we do things going forward? Which committees do we need? Do we just say yes to everything that we did before? Does it all have to go back to what it once was? Or can we say no to some things so we can say yes to some new things? I know a lot of clergy that are worn out because their congregations just want everything to start back up like it was before. And they're saying, can we look at what was not working? Or look at how we've changed and ask what we need now to be doing? Those of us that have been to the annual direction setting retreat know a little bit about this, right? I mean, we do that as part of our style at Crossroads, that we don't just renew groups because, well, we've always done it, you know? I mean, I guess the band does, like, what would we do if you said no this year? But everybody else pretty much goes, well, we could not renew, right? And maybe it's time to let that close and something else begin, a new chapter. This question looms before churches, and it looms before us as individuals. Our lives have just become so cloistered in the last year and a half. And we haven't had near as many commitments. So what do we do now? And will we say yes to every opportunity before us? Or will we practice a new rhythm that includes saying no sometimes? So I want to advocate for us, and for me, for you, to learn to say no. And some of you are probably thinking and wondering if I really just gave you permission to say no to things. This is not a retroactive thing. So if you said yes to me prior to 8 a.m. this morning, you cannot retract that yes. Okay? But going forward, you have full permission to say no. But if you all keep saying no to everything, we might have a different sermon coming up. But yes, it doesn't sound like that's good for church business. I heard you. And it's a risky move. But I believe it's the right move to give you permission to say no. And here's why. Sometimes when we say yes, we are saying no to ourselves. No to our dreams, to our passions, to our truths, to our time for ourselves, to our families. And when we say yes to things that we don't want to do, we often are saying yes to draining ourselves. Now, I know that sometimes we say yes, we need to say yes to something we don't want to do. Like every week I tell myself I have to say yes to mowing the lawn. Don't really have a choice there. I am convinced that the people on the finance team say yes gladly because they're a little different than the rest of us and they like numbers. But some of us might have served on that team in the past just because, well, we have to deal with money, right? Or we have to deal with crumbling walls. Sometimes we have to say yes to things that we don't necessarily want to do, right? But what if all or the majority of our yeses are to things that don't fill us up? What if everything you say yes to and you do during the week, or the larger portion of the things that you do during the week are things that you would have preferred to say no to, but you said yes because you were afraid of letting someone down or something not getting done? How drained would you be? Some of you are already that drained, I suspect. Is that what God wants for you? There might have been a time in the church when we said we're supposed to give and give and do and do and do, to the point where we completely empty ourselves and have nothing left. But I don't think that's what God really wants for us. And I also think when we drain ourselves that much, are we really doing any good on the teams we're serving on or the people we're connecting with? This might be a good time to remind you, if you need some biblical holding for this, that our creation story is grounded in the understanding that God said no on the seventh day, right? God said no to everything and rested. Right there in the origin story, we have an example, almost permission to say no. Saying no is a spiritual practice. It is a practice of caring for ourselves. It's a practice of honoring ourselves and honoring God. It's a practice of honoring our truth and staying true to that path that we have carved out for ourselves in this world. Sometimes we say yes to so many other things that we suddenly find ourselves on a completely different path than we wanted to be on. And we wonder, where has my life gone? Saying no also allows us to be more present and engaged for the things that we want to say yes to. And you know what else? I think I am learning that saying no is a practice of liberation. It's pretty darn freeing, especially when we learn to say no and not apologize for it, because it's okay sometimes to choose ourselves. And it liberates us to say yes when we want to say yes. Yes with all caps and bold and lots of exclamation points. So when do I say yes and when do I say no? That's the question, right? And here are a few thoughts, and you could probably add to these lists. Say no to the things that just drain you of life. You know what those things are. To the things that you do not feel pulled toward. Say no to the things that you don't feel like you're the right person for. Do you ever get asked to be on a team and you're thinking, well, that person over there has a lot more skills and interest in that than I do. Maybe we should ask them. Say no to the things that stand in the way of your health, physical, spiritual, and emotional, as well as to the health of your family. That's a hard one. And then say yes to the things that you deeply care about. And I say deeply care about because I know there are lots of things you care about. Say yes to the things you feel passionate about that give you purpose or that align with your purpose. To the things that you feel tugging you. To the things that you know will stretch you and grow you. Right? Because sometimes we may go in hesitantly, but it ends up being a really good thing for us. Say yes to the things that are central to your personal values and to the things that give you joy and bring you life. There is no exact right or wrong to this. Sometimes the things we think are the best for us, that we say yes to, end up just being a drag, right? And sometimes the things we say no to might have actually been good for us. We don't get it right all the time. But perhaps the best advice is to slow down and to truly listen and watch. Listen to ourselves. Listen to others around us. spend some time in prayer and listen for God's guidance. I think a lot of times we just make decisions too fast. So spend time discerning what your response will be. And if you're struggling to find the answer, invite some trusted friends to listen and to ask questions. And this is the important part. If you are that trusted friend, it's not your job to decide for them. We each need to decide for ourselves. But it is your job to listen and to ask questions that help your friend discern the right path. Remember that saying no may be the right answer. Because by saying no to something or to someone, you are saying yes to yourself and maybe to someone or something else. I have a pretty awful tendency of saying yes to everything and to everyone. It's why I have spent my entire life, even from when I was a child, and my mom will attest to this, being an overly scheduled individual. Right now, my son is doing the same thing. And it makes for a lot more stress in my life. It stretches me too thin. But I don't want to let anybody down. I won't ask you to raise your hands, but just ask yourself, do you resonate with that? Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about because you're living this life too. Or maybe you know that it's your partner that's living this life, or your child that's living this life. So I've been trying to sit in reflection more when things get asked of me. Sometimes I even just sit and flip through my calendar, as silly as that sounds. I go over and over again and consider how stretched I am and what this new commitment would require of me. And I try to ask myself, is saying yes to this good for me in the long run? And maybe for you, you need to do the same, to weigh some of the opportunities before you, or the ones that you've recently taken on, and ask yourself, what is the best answer you can give? And maybe you've already got something in mind that you should probably say no to for the interest of your own self-care. And maybe that will free you up to say yes to yourself and to something that you really do want to do. Friday, I found myself unusually unscheduled. I didn't have the kids. I had no plans. It's just big old Friday night blank on my calendar. And you know what my initial thought was? I need to fill it up. I don't even just say yes, I look for things to say yes. And I was working on this sermon that morning, and I was like, whoa, hold up. You don't need to do anything. Say yes to a free evening. Say yes to sitting on the couch in your pajamas and watching a movie. Eat popcorn by yourself. Just say yes to yourself. So that's what I did. It was great. It was the best thing I could have done for myself. But it was not my normal rhythm, right? So I have to push back against that sometimes. The pandemic has given us a lot of time to rest and step away from some responsibilities, from some community engagement, from constantly being with our friends and all of those connections. But now I think we would be wise going forward to ask ourselves where we truly want to spend our time and energy. To consider what gives us life and purpose, and to tell ourselves that it is okay to say no. It is okay. It's okay. Just say no. And you know, when you do, it makes the yeses all that much better. Will you pray with me? Gracious and loving God, you showed us from the very beginning in our stories of creation that there is a time for creating, for connecting, and there is a time for rest. Help us to make decisions that are in our best interest, to say yes to the things that we are drawn toward, and to say no to the things that drain us. Help us to practice better self-care. May we listen to you with open hearts and seek your guidance. May we listen to ourselves. May we listen to the things the world is telling us. May we do better with what we see and what we hear. Amen. We're going to sing.
Yeah, I invite you to stand, or if you're at home, move to a different chair. I don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let it be said of us, while we walked among the living, let it be said of us, by the ones we leave behind, let it be said of us, that we live to be a blessing for life. Let it be said of us, that we gave to reach the dying. Let it be said of us, by the fruit we leave behind. Let it be said of us, that our legacy is blessing for life. This day is that life, you set death right before us. This day, every blessing and curse is a choice now, and we will choose to be a blessing for us. Let it be said of us, that our hearts belong to Jesus. Let it be said of us, and we spoke the words of life. Let it be said of us, and our heritage is blessing for life. This day, you set life, you set death right before us. This day, every blessing and curse is a choice now, and we will choose to be a blessing for life. We will choose to be a blessing for life. 'Cause blessings and curses are choices. Will we build up, tear down? The moment of truth is now. This day, you set life, you set death right before us. This day, every blessing and curse is a choice now, and we will choose to be a blessing for life. For your kingdom, for our children, for the sake of every nation. For your kingdom, for our children, for the sake of every nation. We will choose to be a blessing for life. We will choose to be
I would stand up to mirror you, but the camera's like, it would mess up everything they do. Couple quick announcements. Next Sunday will be the last Sunday of our Who Stole My Pew sermon series. We'll be in the sanctuary at 10:30, worship everything just as it's been. But then we also have an evening service next Sunday if the weather is good, so we hope to see you twice that day. And we will put the evening service online as well. It will be out in the back parking lot. I say that like there's a front parking lot. It will be in the parking lot. Did you know we have a front park? It will be in the parking lot. There'll be music, of course, from all of our Crossroads musicians. It's at 6 o'clock at night, and we are continuing our Tell Me a Story that we did from Worship in the Park. We had such a great response to those stories that we decided to continue. So next week, come for that. If you could be in person or online. Rob's going to tell a story. He's got a new job you're going to hear a little bit about. Greg Martin is going to tell a story. Jeanette Metzler is going to tell a story. And Daphne Sajovic is going to tell a story. So I'm really excited to hear from them through this last year and a half, something that has impacted them. So come and join us at 6. Bring a chair to sit in the parking lot. It will be a nice time together. But right now, we're going to, after worship, for those of you that are here, or if you're hurrying over here, we're going to go to the front lawn, also the only lawn we really have, unless we sit on the side, and have a picnic. So hopefully you brought your lunch, grab a chair or a blanket. We can also grab a chair from indoors if you forgot to bring one. Even if you didn't bring food, just come and visit. The other thing that came from worship in the park was just the desire to have more opportunities to just chat. And so we thought, well, let's just go out there and eat. And we'll do that again while the weather is nice. So come outside. I think our dessert might arrive at some point, but for now, just kind of head on out there. The ushers will release you by rows so we don't get too backed up at the exit. So as you go out today, know that God blesses you. God blesses you to say yes to the things that your heart is drawn toward. And God blesses you to say no, to seek self-care, to remember that when Jesus told us to love our neighbors, he said to love our neighbors as ourselves. You must love yourself as well. So go and do as we have been taught. Amen. Bye to all of you on YouTube.
1, 2,